Hey
Hey
everybody,
guys!
Hello.
welcome to Drifter's Atlas. We are going to sort of figure this thing out together. This is our first and inaugural issue, our stream. We have Catherine here also. Say hi to Catherine.
Hey!
Catherine is a friend of ours from convention. My name is Thomas, and then we have Zach also. Zach and I have done conventions, and same with Catherine with some Baldwin, and I know Zach has done some other conventions with a couple other companies as well. We are going to do this world building stream here. And what you see on the screen here is you see up in the left hand corner, you see Legend Keeper, which is a project in Patreon right now. So it's basically OneNote with a map attached. And then in the right corner, you're going to see where you see the corgi right now, you're going to see
Ooh.
Wonder Draft. And Wonder Draft is a map making tool, a map making software. And the way it's going to work is every single week we're going to get on live, and in while we are doing live, we are going to hopefully take some comments from Catherine or whoever our guest is that week, and Zach and I will come with some information as well. We will also be taking ideas from the chat room or any of the other social medias that we have throughout the week.
Yep.
So we have a social media in YouTube, we have a Facebook and Instagram channel. We are going to have a Reddit channel, and then we also have a YouTube and a Patreon. So what's going to happen is throughout the week, we will be answering any ideas, any questions as we build this world together. And then our Patreon is going to have PDFs of all of the information we build together. So Zach and I, and help with our guests if they want to, we'll write out the PDFs and we'll post them into our Patreon. That way people can have information to the towns we create and the NPCs we make. So we are super excited to see what happens. Thank you very much. Needs more clickbait for the follow.
Woo!
I'm trying to keep up with it. So that's what we're going to do. Zach, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
You did a great job, but I guess I'll just say that I'm Zach with Bite Size Gaming. Do we produce fifth edition content, and like Thomas said, go to a lot of conventions around the country and run D&D for people. And I see that we have in the chat Mr. David Barentine, who I work with on a Kickstarter that is live right now. And he is actually the person who got me hooked into Legend Keeper. So we have him to thank for that section of the stream. And also, we have
Yay.
a knowledgeable critic of how good we use that program right now. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, good luck
Yes.
with that. It's not going to be great. We're learning as we go, is the way we like to call this.
Yeah, that's, I think, the other thing
Trial
I
by
was.
fire.
Exactly. The other thing I would add is that we are not pros at Legend Keeper or Wonder Draft, and we didn't try to be before we started. This is us figuring out the programs along with you, and yeah, we want to build a world. We want to build a world with you, and we also want to show you how easy it is to build a world on your own if that's what you want to do as well. So, and we have Catherine on the stream right now, and we're really excited to have her. And every week, that guest box might be filled with somebody different. So we're going to have a different guest on every single week. Sometimes it'll be Catherine again, sometimes it'll be another DM or player from around the country or around the world. And so check in every week to see who we have in the box.
Sweet.
Awesome. And Catherine, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your experience here with DMing?
Well, sure. I'm Catherine. I do a little bit of work. Uh, I've worked a little bit with Bite Size Gaming, and that's gonna continue on, and I'm really excited about that. Um, I have, well, Zach is one of the people who introduced me to Bald Man Games, and and I starting to DM with them, and I'm still pretty new for context, still pretty new DM, still technically a pretty new player. So I learned a lot and had a lot of fun. Uh, and if you do the Instagram thing, then I do have an account on there. It's sparkly and glitter, but mostly also I run the Bite Size Gaming Instagram account. So
Both of those are worth
those are my
following.
main things.
Yeah, Sparkly and Glitter is
Thanks.
the name of her Instagram. If you missed that, so yeah.
Thanks.
So Thomas, tell us how is this going to work? What's the plan for tonight?
So the plan for tonight is to get the three of us together, and if anybody wants to chat, we hope that people will also chime in and chat. And we are going to start by making a continent in Wonder Draft. They are then going to Zach is going to work on that. He can open that whenever that gets clicked open. And once that clicks open, we will start to build a continent. As soon as we get one that we're comfortable with, we will then send that over to me, and I'll upload that into Legend Keeper, and we can start getting ideas of where we want to start. We also have to start with what kind of situation do we want to start with? Do we want to start in a human town? Do we want to start in an elven town? Do we want to start in the mountains? Do we want to start in a plain? So these are all little things that we will be going over tonight, and looks like we're gonna keep this thing going probably to 11:30, 11:45. Get a good hour under our belt tonight and see where that goes. Hopefully, we get a good amount of content done, and we can get rolling next week as well.
Yep, and that's 11:30, 11:45 Eastern time.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Eastern time.
that's
yes.
all good.
Zach and
Just
I are
going to keep us on our toes.
in different parts. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to make a map. Is that what we're going to do first?
Yeah, let's start making a map.
Awesome. So in Wonder Draft, the first thing that you're going to do is click the new button, and right out the gate, we get to pick what size of map we're going to do. And I've already kind of got that set up, and we know what we want at least initially. And we're going to hit OK. So it's going to load a pre-generated map for us, and then we can tweak it or we can mix things around.
Sweet.
But here is our blank canvas.
It's a lot of ocean. I think we need some land.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we click on this portal right here on the left, and we're going to make a world to generate.
It's exciting.
Yes, this is the start of it. This is like that loading bar when you used to have to install a game on your browser. Like,
yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, so we
interesting.
Yes, so we can decide if we want this world or not, and I can increase the water levels.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a great feature, right?
Yeah.
Once I hit the generate button, we can't go back to this one, I don't think. So
no, we cannot. And this is actually recommended from the people who do Lore Keeper. So this is one of the programs that when I was looking through their Reddit, not Lore Keeper, Legend Keeper has said in their Reddit that this is a great place to start to upload maps into Legend Keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So Wonder Draft has been super excited.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sweet.
Do you want to keep something like that? Multiple continents sort of things, or?
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It brings more.
Let's
Do we want to try a different mask? Do we want to leave this one?
Let's just click it a couple times just to see like what different ones can look like and
yeah.
Needs more clickbait. Definitely says it. He likes it better. She likes it better with higher water levels.
I agree.
Which I think we all. I think we all are on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this one has a large continent, which I think we could boop down to something like that.
Nice.
I love the idea of having even a bigger, like closer to where we started in that, and having like that huge lake in the middle of the continent sort of idea.
Yeah.
I know it's not a lake, it's salt water, but it's just this like huge thing in the middle of the continent.
Yeah.
The other thing we can do is there's a tool that you can erode or add land where you want it.
Right.
So if we like the ultimate shape of something, we can add some
it.
Land around it as well.
Yep.
Nice.
And you'll notice that we are doing this generation before we talked at all about what this world's setting or theme is going to be, and really what we're trying to do is find something that inspires us and that we can then roll with. And different strokes for different folks. Other people might want to get their idea in their head before they start to build a map. But we're going to start with a map.
Yeah, I think the whole point of this podcast, Zach, or not podcast, but the stream, is that we are planning on sort of going with what where the crowd takes us, and I think part of that is building this map with everybody and then seeing what speaks to us.
Yep. So this one,
something like that's kind of cool.
Yeah. What do we think about something like that?
I like it. I like the barely connected point right there. That's a very, very important locale right there. It'd be fun to play with that.
What if you the landmass to your west? What if you carved out the center a little bit of that one? Not a lot. I think we should have a bigger landmass like that. But if you carved out, it made it almost like a lowercase r.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's see. So we can grab our eraser tool right here, and
I love that. It's that same kind of saltwater lake almost effect on the on the southeast of the other continent.
Yeah.
Gulf. That's what it is.
Golf. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I can go back
something like that. Look at that.
Nice.
We don't. Yeah, look at that. What about that? Because then what Zach and I were talking about when we were talking about building a map for this stream, about sometimes you take a boat even though you can get there by land because it's faster.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that maybe those two peninsulas between in the center of the map, you would have two big harbors.
Yeah.
And then you go back and forth.
And then maybe even a third stop by, or maybe that land is like too hazardous to stop by very much, so that harbor is not as big or something. That port.
What do you think, Zach?
I like this. Clickbait needs more clickbait. What do you think? Do we want to keep something like this, or do you want to keep looking?
Yeah, anybody else who's in there also is more than we'd love any kind of feedback. This is we really want this to be community driven. We don't want this to be just Zach and I and a guest choosing everything while people listen. I think it's gonna be so much more fun if we get.
And you know what I could do? Let's go up here to the lake tool.
Yeah.
Just kind of
archipelagos are awesome.
What?
Yeah. So David says, and yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So everybody's kind of feeling this map. All right. We love it. Lovely.
Okay.
Awesome.
The other thing too is that we can add islands to the side. So if we like this as a main continent, we can always add archipelagos off to the side and smaller islands off to the edges.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we're all good here. So let's do this. Let's zoom in. And do we want to start? So we're not gonna build this whole map right out the gate, right? That's kind of defeats some of the purpose. We can't
Zach,
start.
Can you?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you shoot me that?
Yep.
That file. That way I can start typing information as we go.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, but he's zooming all over the place.
Yeah, that's what happens when you export it. It shuffles it.
Gotcha.
Yep, so we are attempting to export this massive file.
Awesome. So what do you guys like to see or what does chat like to see in a landmass? We got to vote for archipelagos. I like a place where we can have some boat adventure.
I really like, as stereotypical as it may be, I really like having deep, like super steep hilled forests that have like little super super magical groves or like super sacred like hidden away spots in there.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
have
we're
a big
definitely going to get some big forests and some big mountains in here
yeah.
for Catherine and David. Um, if either of you guys haven't used Wonder Draft, it's really cool how they do sort of the mountain feature and the forest feature on how quick you can add pieces to your map.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Ooh, a crater where scary creatures live is a great idea.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Chasm or a
Ooh.
crater. Or, yeah. That's the best thing. Like I'm thinking about like Minecraft, right? And sometimes when you generate that, and I'm a person who hasn't played Minecraft in 8 years, so it's probably something completely different than what I'm referring to now. But back in the day, you could load in a map, and sometimes there would just be these huge like mouths in the earth where stuff could crawl out of, and you could drop down hundreds of feet. It's always like that's a cool
I
point.
I will say I
Yeah.
have never crafted a mine before.
Yeah, I left right when they were starting to give you the requirement to eat regularly or die. Um, so I think that's a pretty normal thing now, where you have to replenish your health. I
Awesome.
I'm sure I sound super
So
ignorant.
now we're back to the map. Did you send that over?
It's loading in. Uh-huh. So give me
Okay,
just a second.
gotcha.
Um,
That's fine. So we can probably um, if you can see. So okay. Gotcha.
I'm actually sending you a drive link right now.
Gotcha. Even better.
Yep.
What about a big whirlpool type of thing
Ooh,
somewhere?
like in the center, like yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We'd have to think about so somebody, maybe somebody in chat, and when we get there, could talk about how those are formed, like the science behind how one of those might be formed would be cool. So we know, like,
A
okay, water.
whirlpool where a hydra lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to. I'm not exactly sure how a whirlpool is formed, other than some sort of big creature sucking water in.
Yep.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So,
I tend to jump to natural like I tend to jump to like unnatural causes for things like that because I don't know the science, but you know, it's probably important to learn the actual facts too.
A
I
school
guess.
of fish, huh? That's a really big school of fish.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like that cluster of straws in the middle of the ocean, right? Like,
Gross.
yep. Okay, so while we're loading in this map, we can still look at it all and we can talk about this. So we've got our map, and we're going to be zooming in on a part and starting in a certain area. But do we want to talk about like an overarching idea for this world, or how we cut what the theme or what the presentation of this setting is going to be? I know we had tossed around some
So
ideas.
what do you mean by like a
Mm-hmm.
theme of the entire world, or a theme of the area, or
Yeah, like I think like you and I, when we were building the idea for the stream, talked about like, is this a world that's split and there's something going on this side of the world, or XYZ, right? Like, we
gotcha?
may
Okay.
not cover the whole world right now, but getting that overarching umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can zoom in on one
Yeah,
portion of the umbrella.
yeah. We definitely talked about, and Zach and I did about 10 hours of show prep for figuring out different project or different map kits and everything else, and figuring out how to use all the streaming software and everything else that we need to do. So, in part of that talk, late at night one night, we decided that it would also be pretty cool if there was some sort of like a higher technology area. So, something that you could use in sort of uh, um, almost like we brought up the idea of Black Panther and Wakanda, right? Where a
Mm-hmm.
part of
Mm-hmm.
the world is locked off to everybody else, and they have higher access to technology.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan. Clickbait is mentioning the apocalypse, probably a little bit tongue in cheek. Um, but I really like the idea of apocalypses too, where there's some travesty or wasteland on one side of the world
Hmm.
and we're on another side, or vice versa.
I
Uh,
like the idea of like maybe building off of that. Uh, if you take, you know, that travesty happening over there, that catastrophe or whatever it is, maybe it gives way to like to some sort of rare uh, components or elements or something that could be very sought after. So maybe that's why people are still even, not just trying to completely close off from that area, or maybe they are, but they're sending like groups of like runners or something through to get them.
that's cool. Like the idea, like something has caused devastation, but is also like a source. Well, it'd be like oil, right? I mean, that's the perfect one to one. Um, so, but like we could do. That's kind of cool. Like there's like the thing that immediately pops into head is like a meteor or a crystal something that has
Hmm. Hmm.
impacted the Earth or erupted from the Earth, and
Ooh.
um, you could do something like that.
I still I keep going back to the meteor idea, and I sort of really like the meteor idea where it sort of disrupted a whole part of the land.
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if we did like a crater, and we could like have that crater be like a gigantic lake, do we like that idea?
Ooh, like
Hmm.
the one in the southwest or southeast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
Either that one. Yeah, element. Ooh, I like that. A magical element that is warping nature.
Ooh, yeah.
Or yeah, I like a magical. I think a magical component is a great idea for this impact crater. I think whatever was deposited onto this world influenced the natural weave, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
that also gives you a position to give a reason why some of the technology is different, right?
Yeah.
uh,
So the clickbait is saying that the meteor caused a massive plague. So what if the plague is being started by this sort of powerful radiation or something?
mm-hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something like yeah.
Yeah.
Something
Depending
that
on
can be harnessed.
mm-hmm. And the wording
Hmm.
there is we can it can be radiation. It can also we can just call it whatever we want, but the effect is the same, right?
Right.
So like in a high
Yeah.
fantasy setting, we're not going to say radiation. It's too sciency.
Hmm.
But what we
Yeah,
can, but it would be like
for
some
sure.
sort of necrotic matter, right? It would be
Yeah.
the
Yeah, or some sort of um, magical essence, or I mean, it doesn't have to. I think we could do a plague like, and we can do necrotic, or we could do something that is just so magical that you're sort of trying to harness that magic.
Yeah, I like the idea that people think it's inherently dark and then and then, sometime through in the campaign you find out it's actually this more neutral.
Ooh, I love Faye, David.
Ooh.
you're. I know you're gonna have a
Right.
vote for yes with Catherine because that Faye are her thing. So
I
Very
love
fun.
Faye. Everything gets so weird with Faye.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. So the other thing
Yeah, we
that's
don't want to get into that.
so what if
Nice.
so I'm thinking about this impact crater. It's the source of some sort of resource, but if it's also a plague that's shifting the natural world, um, what if there it like I like that idea because it means that the valuable resource is naturally going to be protected by the nastiest monsters to
Yeah, for
within
sure.
some reason, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if there's dragons in this world, maybe there are dragons elsewhere, but the monstrosities, the weirdest stuff is in the most valuable land, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I think that as we talked about, we need to figure out where we start on this map, and I think that's a great place to get to eventually. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a place where we map out, but I think we start somewhere completely different that way. By the time you get there, you're naturally progressing towards that area.
Yeah.
So, I think there's two really good spots on this map, and we can we can pick one of them, or if you guys have a different opinion, we can do the southeast, or we can do the south central, or the southwest, or the south central. I think both of those we could definitely put a whole. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if we zoom in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
The one of the things that you would if that lake, that saltwater, that gulf, as Catherine said earlier, is where the meteor hit,
Mm-hmm.
the south central might not be the best idea, only because you just would walk across that aisle, that place, and you'd already be there.
Mm-hmm. So you're
So
thinking like
Mm-hmm.
right, yeah.
maybe northwest or southwest would be maybe a good place to start.
This like maybe this area here, or you're thinking like over here or over here.
Northwest, so the top left of the map, or the
Okay.
bottom
Mm-hmm.
left of the map is what I was thinking. So you were far away from
Mm-hmm.
it, because if we're talking about the big monstrosities and the craziness, um, we want them to get there. We want people to be able to travel, but we don't want them to just jump back and forth either.
Right. So
Unless,
maybe
unless we're going to do something like we were talking about before, where it's really hard to get to those places. So maybe there's mountains all the way around the crater because it pushed the land up.
Mm-hmm.
When this giant meteor hit, it pushed the land up in like
yeah.
almost like an earth tremor or something like that. It pushed mountains up into the sky around the crater.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
I like this area if we're gonna do a starting zone, because we could on our map. We're not gonna draw the rest of this tonight, but we could if even if we just focused on this area for a little while, for a few weeks even, and
Mm-hmm.
did the kind of starting zone sort of thing here, we could hint at what's real close by this natural occurrence. So I kind of like this area. What is if that's yeah.
Oops.
Go ahead and do me a
I like
favor
that
and
name.
Eggshell
refresh
Mountains.
Legend Keeper for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yep. It's loaded on mine, but I can refresh it. Yeah, absolutely.
Or like eggshell peaks or something. Like I
There we
like
go.
eggshell.
Now we see it.
I like the let's go ahead and drop that in, because I think we're all in agreement on that. Um, so let's drop a tab in on that south central that will name the mountains in there, Eggshell
Mm-hmm.
Mountains or Eggshell Peaks.
Okay. I'll put some other stuff. I'll start putting some comments in the notes there. So when we go through this week, before our next, we can actually have a little bit more information on there. And if anybody has any things that might be in the eggshell peaks, probably mid 15, 14, 10 CRs, something in there, something crazy, not
Mm-hmm.
not end game, but something. If you think of any monsters that might be in there, we can start jotting those down, and you can either send those through chat here now, or you can send them into as comments in our Facebook group, or an Instagram post that we'll post after we get some mountains in there.
Yeah.
And throughout the week, we will do a little bit of editing. That way, when we stream next week, we will have the information from this week back into the map.
Yep.
The lonely, or those
Ah,
other demon creatures.
Yeah,
walking on eggshell.
the lonely and the wretched and things like that.
Yeah.
Those, yeah, those are cool. I know
Ugh.
those would be perfect, like mutant stuff. Yep, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a central trading hub should definitely go on the land bridge there for sure.
So he's
Needs more
talking.
clickbait.
Are needs more clickbait? Are you talking about the one to the north here of that central, or to the east?
I think he's talking about the very center of everything.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But please let us know if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, yeah,
Ooh, Lost Adventurers. being
Yes.
part of the, yeah, that's
Yep.
good.
Cool.
Jumping around chat here.
So I've got this zoomed in. So while we're dropping notes, I'm going to go ahead and start kind of fleshing out the visuals of our starting zone. So Catherine, we're calling it a starting zone, but really all we mean by that is that we're going to build a town here that is of, tier 1 variety. Um, so this could be anything, but it's somewhere on here we're going to have a small town.
Mhm.
So what do we want in this town? Or what do we
I
want
guess
this set? Does we want this to be a mountainous area or grasslands or, start?
yeah. And what kind of town is it? Is it an orc village? Is it an elvish village? Is it a dwarves? Because if it's dwarves, we might want to put some mountains in the area or
Mhm.
someplace they can mine.
Yep.
Mhm. I would, since there's going to be so much focus on crossing mountains later, I would maybe say shying away from mountains in the starting area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so maybe more like grasslands.
Mm-hmm.
I like to start in fairly rural places most of the time, um, so that then, in all honesty, it's partly so that I can flesh out the cities more before people get to them, but uh, but also just because it's a nice, like, it doesn't feel as rushed. You have your essentials, like your tavern and your inn, your blacksmith, and all that stuff, and then you can. It's really easy to link NPCs together
Mm-hmm.
because you're in a smaller, more rural area where everybody's connected already.
Yeah.
Um, so like a farming, I like starting in farming villages type places.
I like it.
Yeah, David, we
Um,
hope to see you then because we love world building also. I know that I am a huge world builder just for my own games and things like that. And Josh, JN John's in the chat. Morikoths are scary things.
oof.
I wrote it down, so we'll have to see if we can't find some sort of layer down there because I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So I'm kind of painting some grasslands here, and obviously we'll
Nice.
we'll have some forest too. But Catherine, talk to me about other things that you would like to see, or Chad as well. Talk about the starting area, and we're calling it a starting area. Um, One of the things that we might need to talk about, and this might help us kind of get an idea for what needs to be featured in this area of the world, is who owns this, or whose kingdom are we in right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because that might determine a little bit about the setting itself.
What if it was the kingdom of some sort of dragon type creature in the mountains?
Ooh, I like.
Or a place run by different guilds. That seems interesting.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds good too.
I
That
cut.
sounds fun.
Could we do? Oh man. Ooh, okay, okay. So we have a lot of good ideas here. Pirate Republic, and
Ooh,
then we have, I think that there's a case to be made, Catherine, that your dragon could be what kind of keeps all of these different people from tearing at each other, right?
that makes sense.
Like
What
the.
about you guys talk about a dragon, Zach? What if you did? People are paying like taxes to the dragon,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so everybody has to keep paying taxes, or else the dragon takes out one of the guilds or one of the pirate kings.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that the pirate kings don't tear into each other is because they've got the constant threat of a dragon, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that kind of like the threat on both fronts keeps any of them from blowing up, sort of a thing.
Nice.
Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's cool. And then it makes sense as to, yeah.
So if we're
How
doing
would that?
that, go ahead.
It just popped into my head. How would that affect the gathering and/or distribution of um, whatever precious resource or element is present from the meteorite?
Hmm.
That would be two different areas, right?
Yeah, but there still could be like
Oh,
some
yeah,
some crossover, right? Like
yeah.
just
I was
Oh, they're
picturing
definitely.
it differently. My bad.
No, you're okay. This whole thing is just about having fun and fleshing it out. So, especially when we're all thinking three different things, and then we're talking with Chat too, who has another two or
Right,
three different
right.
things. So, I think we don't want to lose sight of that resource while we build in other parts of the world either.
yeah,
Because if you were DMing in this world, if you were a game master in this world, you wouldn't want to lose sight of what was happening with that precious resource either,
right.
Mm-hmm.
You
which
know,
is something that we always have to think of as DMs.
and one of the things that I try to keep in mind, I think Colville said this at one point, was don't delay in doing your cool stuff or showing your cool things, right? We don't,
Mm-hmm.
if there's only ever the promise of cool, but it always takes forever to get to cool, then your players are going to get bored of being in mundane. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why the dragon kind of popped out, and the pirate. I mean, like a lot of this stuff is just like, oh yeah, because these are the types of things that will keep the players interested in this side of the world, and not just saying, okay, let's just go ahead and take a boat straight east, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
again, we don't, like David said, we want to give them their first hit for free, but we don't want to tell them where they can get the product.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So Catherine, you
Nice.
had said like do you want like a mountain? Like we're not going to do a huge mountainous region, but if we're going to have a dragon, do you want a dragon in the mountain, or is this not that sort of a dragon?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, a forest dragon seems kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
If there's deep forest in the center or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's lair like carved out of one of the hills or something.
Yep. Yep. All right. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna do some hills. Hills. So what I'm doing over here, chat, for those of you who aren't familiar with Wonderdraft, is they have all these different mountains that you can pick from, and it'll kind of twist and shape those mountains a little bit differently, but we're just going to start off with something, and I'm not going to do big mountains, but just a little bit of something maybe in this wooded area might be cool. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more.
And what I'm doing, while Zach is working on it in Wonder Draft, I am working on it in Legend Keeper, writing down all of our notes and putting pins in the area. That way, if somebody comes up with an idea or anything, we can make sure that we capitalize on that.
So there we've got some little scatterings. I don't know that we want a whole
Oh,
lot,
nice.
but because we're going to put some trees in there too, but at least we've got a little bit of something to kind of pockmark that landscape. And then we can go to trees, and
Question for you:
yeah.
while he's building some trees out, Catherine, what do you think of a forest dragon that can turn into like a druid or something?
That's
And
super
lore and
cool.
a lore and a lot of editions of D&D and fantasy games, dragons can turn back and forth in between humans.
Mm-hmm.
So this forest dragon, who is probably um, neutral or chaotic neutral or something
Mm-hmm.
close. It's not just an evil dragon. Um, well, of course, the first thing I look up is a forest dragon on Wiki, on Unearthed Arcana, and it's chaotic evil.
Yeah,
So,
Well.
we can change
so
that though. Our worlds, dragons can be a little bit.
absolutely.
And
For sure.
Chad, if you have any ideas or any preferences on how you like your dragons to behave, or how you like their alignments, or what you imagine your dragons being like, that's a great thing to talk about right now. And it
Mm-hmm.
may seem like we're getting ahead of ourselves, but right now we're just kind of throwing out ideas um, while we set some stuff up. So
and so what the point of this first stream is that we are going to, our goal is to get a big picture of the area so we can then get really small. So what we're going to do is, after we get the area sort of thought about, we're going to start with just a small village somewhere, or a small city, and then we'll work our way out from there. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to paint ourselves into a corner if we are not careful. If we start going too small and before you know it everything's the same, it wouldn't be as much fun. So
Mm.
could have a chromatic dragon that is fighting against its
Ooh.
nature.
I have a special place in my heart for blue dragons.
I like that.
Nice.
What if the dragon is actually a good guy trying to bring peace through the land by force?
Mm,
Yeah, I think that's
mhm,
good. I think that is
mhm.
the dragon is trying to get all these guilds or the pirate kings or whatever we decide on doing into to play nice with each other, right? It's not stopping them from doing what they're doing, um, but this way it's not, it's probably not lawful good, but it is somewhere in the middle for alignment, and it is working with these kings, knowing basically like there's these tiers to society where the dragon is in charge of helping make sure the peace is controlled. If not, sort of hell gets rained down.
Mhm. I like how well that would play into like the forcefulness of of how this dragon is seeming to choose to keep the peace. I like how that would play into the idea of it fighting against its quote unquote normal nature also. I think that ties in really well.
So I think I'm about done
Yes.
with what I want this to be, but I'm gonna, just for fun here, I'm gonna grab a. It's kind of hard to see, but we can scroll up here, and there's one.
The other plan, guys, if you guys are watching over Twitch, what we are going to do is we are going to be using WonderDraft to do rough maps during the stream. What we don't want to get is very precise and use all of our time just making a small map. What we're doing is making a rough map so people can give ideas and help with the building, and then we'll go back throughout the week and sort of edit that map so it looks clean and with the ideas that everybody gave.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool.
So let's go ahead and we're gonna just say dragon.
Dragon.
And we're just going to drop that right there. And again, yeah, like Thomas said, we'll go in later and clean that up. But at least now we know. Let's zoom back out. Boom. Right?
Yeah. Nice.
So if I really like the idea, I think maybe a combination. Let's see. A bunch of different pirate families, like when yeah. I think that's exactly what it is, right? Like David's saying in chat. I think that I love the idea that that somewhere in here, maybe in this cove up here, or maybe all along this coast, because this coast is going to butt up against the coast of this other landmass, right, where our cracked egg mountains are. There's
this large
pirates.
channel.
Yeah, that pirates have kind of amassed here as a way to raid. And kind of, if we zoom out even further, right? If they're running this gauntlet and patrolling this this big channel right here, then they have kind of ensured that large sections of the world are not having access or having hard access to whatever material is coming off this plane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if they're using if they're using the dragon as maybe like they're like the dragon is obviously controlling them, but if they're using the dragon as the way of saying like don't mess with us, we've got a dragon, right? Even though they have no say what this dragon can't is will or won't do.
Yeah, the people on the other side of the channel don't necessarily need to know that.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, oh no,
Yeah.
we've seen your dragon. You're telling them the
What
truth.
if we did something like a Panama Canal too, up above, up to the western above the pirate area?
Okay, now hang on. Let me zoom back out here.
Yeah. So where you have it more brown on
Uh
the
huh.
map,
Uh huh.
what if we did some sort of canal so this pirate land is everybody's working together because they also are worried about lawful citizens coming in. There's some sort of light channel. So this is almost like an island or a peninsula that sits, and you can go like around. You can take a ship around the entire area.
So do you think like a river?
Yeah, like a bigger river, something you could flow boats through, but it had defensible points.
Yeah, we can put like a big wall along the coast there.
Yeah, and you have maybe the different guilds have to send people to patrol this area together.
What about like if one guild like messes up, like goes too far in a conflict with another guild or something, they have to send more people to that wall.
And the dragon takes more attacks.
Yeah. I almost picture that as part of the tax, maybe.
Yeah, I still think that we want this dragon to have this sort of this hoard from the booty from the pirates, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think there might be I think there's a physical tax as well.
Yeah. Gotta have the shiny gold hoard to sit on.
Yeah, and clickbait can say,
For sure.
addressing that with clickbait, what if the dragon is taking these taxes because he's trying to keep them take away for for some of their pillaging, he's trying to take away some of their wealth. He's moved in and he's threatening them, and he doesn't want to have bloodshed and just torch everything, because he probably can't. If they all banded together, he probably can't take care of it anyway. But he is trying to slowly bankrupt them as well as they do these evil things.
Nice.
I'm sure there's a way. This is going to be a learning experience here. I'm sure there's a way to twist these items.
Maybe
Here
like
it is.
after you put it down.
Perfect. I found it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Awesome. See if it'll. Oh, it's kind of already arrayed for a certain thing, is what I'm seeing.
That one looked fine.
Yeah, it's a little bit wonky. Like I rather the. It's just gonna be me being picky, so stand by.
Remember, we
Fair.
can clean all that up.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So
Sweet.
what I'm thinking is like something like that, and actually I can probably do something like that.
So what do you guys think about having that sort of hard border up there as well? This way, like the kingdoms wouldn't want a whole island of pirates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The good kingdoms to the north wouldn't want this whole island of pirates, but at this point they can't do much about it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that if it was just a dragon, then people would maybe
Leave it alone.
or they would, well, if it was just a dragon and pirates, they would maybe try to still take care of it. But the fact that it's dragon, pirates, and it's hard to get to,
Mm-hmm.
all kind of end up being, well, we don't really have much of a choice. Um,
So we are sort of building this world around like a point of view that is this drifter who sort of is following the world, writing this atlas. Do we want to make him a pirate, or is he trying to get out of the pirate life, or
I don't.
do we sort of don't know that yet?
I don't. I'm not sure if I know yet. I really like the idea of him being a pirate, but until I kind of know, oh, this is until I kind of know like what is the
Hmm. David
who are
says,
these?
"What if?"
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
David says, "What if it doesn't have a choice?" I think that's a good. I think that's a good
The
thought.
drifter doesn't have a choice. He has to go somewhere.
Like, yeah, maybe he's has to be. I read that as he has to embrace the pirate way of life, at least at first, is how I read that.
Nice. I like that. I'm gonna grab my cord. I'll be back in 2 seconds, guys. I can still hear you.
So let's see. I am going to. I think that one of the things that I noticed, Catherine, and you had kind of talked about this anyways. So one of the things that I noticed is that this land is a whole bunch of forest. And before I get too much further into laying out stuff, I'd love to put some more features into this landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lake tool, which is really cool.
Ooh.
So I thought maybe we could have like a lake that goes up against the woods here. How do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
some
nice.
water or a river that goes out to the edge.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. So you have this sort of oasis where the dragon lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe put it a tiny bit further up in there.
Think like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Ooh, I like that
Nice.
the drifter is a writer, or even a cartographer,
Ooh.
and he thinks that the pirates can help him. The pirates can help him get a way of life where he could sort of do the maps.
I like this. This is cool.
So, and we could even
This is a
do
cool
something
backstory. Ooh, I like how that river, like, lined up.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm thinking that like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that these are just one river at a time, like one direction at a time. So maybe we need to like. I don't really like how that one worked either, but we'll figure it out.
That's cool how it winds for you, though.
Yes. Yes. There's probably a way.
So we have. I'm putting another pin in the map down here in the starting area to sort of do that backstory of the drifter. What do we see? Maybe a writer or cartographer.
Yeah, I like that a lot actually. Makes sense
Might
too,
be indebted
right?
to someone. Oh, go ahead. I talked over you. Sorry, Zach.
It's okay. I was just saying it makes sense that he's a writer or
Yeah.
somebody that's not a pirate that is tied to pirates, so he can have an understanding of them, but his interests lie into something that is more accessible to the average individual.
So he's tied to one of the pirate kings or pirate clans.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having 5 or 6 pirate kings on this island. Not that they are super powerful alone, but it makes these NPCs that you don't forget.
Yeah. It'd be fun going in and differentiating them all. Like how they interact with people. It'd be so fun. I like figuring out group dynamics like that. It's a good time.
Let's see.
So you're thinking, David, like Serpentine or Dragontail River? Like those.
Yes. I like Dragontail especially, since it's more specific that way.
And I think we're already learning some stuff about this world just in our naming, which is a really good thought, right? Like, if it's the, and I lost the exact word, but the Cracked Egg Mountains or the Cracked Egg Peaks, and it's the Serpentine. Yeah, I can undo that if we're gonna name it that. Um,
Well, the thing is too, it might have a real name, right?
but it's what they
So it might
call it.
have a name.
Oh.
But it's always referred to as the Dragon Tail River, maybe.
So what language would its actual name be?
Ooh. Well, the fantasy idea there would probably be Elven,
Mm-hmm.
because it would be dragons. But that doesn't have to be the case with us.
Elven was my first go-to as well, and it automatically makes me want to make it something else just to be contrary.
Draconic? Ooh, maybe in Draconic?
You know, that's cool. Like for the at least for this island, if everything that had a true name, if it had a draconic name, I think that'd be cool.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense then, right? And David saying like the races could be somewhat more races that would be agreeable to draconic rule. But I love the idea that like because there's a dragon, draconic is the because there's a dragon ruler, draconic is the like the default language of this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very realistic that when something comes and takes over, even if it's a good thing, if somebody comes in and takes over, their language gets implemented heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely right. Two needs more clickbait. I think that the mainland, we want to have more of the fantasy landscape that you expect. Maybe not by the crater, but maybe in that northwest, or the whole north side of the map, basically, in that center part.
Yeah.
And
We definitely don't want to have the whole place a pirate.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm thinking that there is a.
Ooh, and you could have like, is this sort of tropical area because we're in the southern part of the map?
Well, see, that's a good question because right now I have it as more of a just a forest, as opposed to a jungle. But we can flip it around.
No, and the other option too is that we don't have to have northern areas being cold in our world and southern areas being warm. We could be, this map could be completely upside down.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that's telling us that the poles are like our world on Earth.
Well, and the other thing is right that just because we have a magical um, influence, even if the poles are the same, there could be something that's kind of fighting against the poles in the magic.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Yeah.
if it's too hard for us to reckon with it being one unrealistic, then we can say, well, magic. Magic can be the answer for why it's different.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that a tripolar planet. Okay, so how do those? David, you probably know more about that by the fact that you suggested it than we do. What does a tripolar planet look like? And I can do some googling while you're explaining, maybe. Like, how does that work?
I think it'd be fun to involve Kuatoa somehow.
Kuatoa is something. Fish, little fish people.
Yeah. Even if it's just like, an adventure or two where you run into some that just sort of hang out off of that coast there because nobody else will bother them.
It's like grung, right? Grung can be scary, but they're absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
I just painted some grung a couple weeks ago, and Had a really fun doing like this poison dart frog look.
Yes. Super vibrant.
He says he
Yeah.
has no idea if it's a thing. It's just something that he's okay. That's fair because I'm like I'm googling, and that term is not coming up, so makes sense. All right, so all right. Well,
What if the planet is like Uranus on its side, so the west?
Maybe if there were two suns.
okay.
Well, I mean, it would be the closest to the sun, not like poles itself, but maybe you could have different.
And the other thing to keep in mind as we're looking through all this is that this area of the map is actually a pretty good size area, right? Like, of all the
Yeah.
land masses, and I can zoom all the way back out here so we can see, of all the land masses, this is like, what, rough approximation?
A fifth.
A fifth or an eighth
Yeah.
of the,
Yeah. A sixth or a fifth.
yeah.
And if you just copy and paste it, I mean, you put one in the top corner. I mean, probably a sixth or a seventh of the map.
Yeah. So this is a powerful kingdom, almost certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely influential.
So David says Kuatoa that lived near one of the poles that worshipped the Night Mother and the long sleep, but it turns out that they just freeze over during the winter and thaw out during the spring.
I love this.
It's kind of cool. That's how
that is hilarious.
That's how like your pond fish work, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, that's the best.
So how do we? Let's think about this. So obviously this, like if we,
go ahead.
I'm just thinking about the this landmass as a whole. If it doesn't we don't really have like in our world there's like an Arctic circle, right? And looking at this map, there's nothing that works for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably unless
you have needs more clickbait said, what if it's like Uranus and the poles are on its side, so west or east is colder than warmer.
So really, you could then have the pole
cold area in the northeast, or the north.
And it could be at any point in the axis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can determine how we like. So we could have like northeast, or northeast or we could have northwest and southeast as the two poles, right? And have it kind of rotating on its side, on its angle.
Yeah.
That's cool. What I can do to kind of throw a note in there.
I'm putting a pin in the top corner.
Yeah. Just gonna kind of throw some white up there just so we kind of. I'm gonna throw some down here at the bottom too, just because we might decide that we want to have two areas. Snow. I like the idea that there's snow or like glaciers really close to this wasteland.
Yeah. Like on one side of the mountain range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we kind of zoomed out a little bit from where we were working, but we're just throwing a note, and now we can go right back into it. So I'm trying to think about, Katherine, maybe you can help me here. I kind of want to give. We need to put some towns or ports along this side of the coast, and maybe up here where this river is as well, because this is probably where people are crossing right here. So it makes sense that there would be a city of some point. And then the other thing that we want to probably think about, Tom, is that we are at an hour, and I know it's crazy.
Oh wow!
But we probably want to keep in mind that and have it wrap up before too long.
Yeah, let's move down back into our starting area and figure out where maybe our first town might be, and maybe go for another 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be, let's pick a place for our starting town and a place for like at least one of the capitals. We'll call them capitals of these pirate forces, right?
Right.
So that we know what's the nearest big town. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that we start building a small town outside of that big town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Do
And
we?
I think the towns. Go ahead, Catherine.
How close do we want the starting town to be to the dragon?
Ooh.
I don't. I think that, and hear me out. I think that
Hmm?
the pirate towns are going to be on all coastal, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the towns are going to be sort of around the edge of this, and sort of you have sort of this, maybe some little towns inland that
Mm-hmm.
get crops or whatever for the pirate towns. But
Mm-hmm.
I think our focus will be one of the big towns on the outside of the island somewhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Okay.
thinking about it from an adventure standpoint, right?
Hmm.
We want it to be to where, at least my preference would be to where when you start, if you go one direction, there's one thing, and if you go another direction, there's another, as opposed to any
Yes.
direction you go, it's the same thing. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that variety is felt in the early stages. So
Makes sense.
I would propose two spots, and you guys and maybe chat can give us some thought. I would propose right up here at the outlet of
Mm-hmm.
this river, and we have a big city there. Also at
Mm-hmm.
the inlet over here could be cool, and then or we could go like way over to here and put one kind of at the closer to the tip here. So the other idea is, do you want to kind of go, hardcore mode right out the beginning and just sail your boat
Mm-hmm.
across? That's an option. You're close to that space, right?
Right.
What?
I would almost say I'd rather do one of the first two because, as thinking of it from an adventure standpoint, like running the adventure standpoint, um, I personally would probably want to build out the opposite coast at least
Mm-hmm.
before having the option of my players hopping over there.
That makes sense.
Well, you got to think of where's the most important parts on this island, correct? Right. So the
Mm,
most important parts are going to be the the peninsula that sticks into the lake is going to
mm,
be a big city because it has to be able to protect that side.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then down in the two corners, the bottom right hand side of the starting area, the bottom left hand side.
Hmm.
And then, of course, there's going to be some sort of town against wherever the entryway to the area is, the gate area.
Exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're going to see like the 4 points on that island because um, those are going to be like with the most resources to water and everything else.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's of the two places, Catherine, that you like,
Hmm.
which one would you like? And we could even put a starting zone on this little island here if we wanted to.
That sounds fun.
You want to do that?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's like it's a miniature of the bigger pirate island that
Mm-hmm.
you'd be stepping onto once you leave that first starting area.
Perfect.
That's kind of fun.
Cool. So
And the
let's.
nice part, and the nice part about it too is that if we put, like David was saying earlier, um, it makes sense that the maybe our drifter is tied to one of the guilds,
Hmm.
and then since it is tied to a guild, he could if you were running this game, you could just leave through the wall. But maybe there's a reason why you're starting in this town so close to the guards and everything else, because you're going to be in big trouble um, if you leave without getting your permissions first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it still
Nice.
stops you from grabbing a boat and taking off, or a raft or a door or whatever you want to cross the strait. But
Mhm.
it there is still the idea that you're not pinning your characters into, or you're not pinning your party into a starting area.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
These trees are so big.
Exactly, David. The Pirate King has eyes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So have you guys ever read the book Aragon?
Yes.
It's been a while, but yeah.
So Aragon, there is the Varden who are out, and they are working with the country of Serda. And
Mm-hmm.
Serda is this place that's sort of out, and they're not part of the Empire, but they deal with the Empire, and they sort of have the eyes on everything. And that's sort of when David said that, I sort of thought about that same kind of idea where if you defected the pirate area and ended up in Serta, we're not going to call it Serta because I don't want to get a cease and desist from Christopher Paolini, but but if you end up in that area north of the pirate kingdoms, um, somebody, an assassin or something, is gonna drag you back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. I like the beholder crest. That's cool.
Yes.
Maybe
So
the
Thomas.
king or the kings.
So there's probably multiple pirate kings, right?
Yes. What if there were 8 kings, which makes up a beholder crest?
Nice.
And then the central eye is the dragon.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or you have one leader king that's voted on.
So there's
So
9
one king
kings.
basically. No, so there's 8 kings, but only one is like in charge of everything, and one is like the king of the whole area.
Pieces of 8. David says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
no,
like.
no, yeah.
So one king gets sort of that. The 8 eyes are the 8 kingdoms, but there is sort of like almost like an election once a year or once a decade or whatever it may be, and one of those kings takes a higher seat. One king to rule them all. Again, we're trying to stay away from cease and desist letters.
Well, I, I think that the one way or another, the pirate king, um, the pirate kings that are the beholder, is a really fun idea. Um, at least
Mhm.
visually, and and it kind of gives us a direction to work off of. Uh, so I love it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
we
they
could
would be
base
the
different.
eyes of the beholder.
Yeah, we could base their personalities off of different signature beholder like eye zap ability things.
Raise.
You could,
Yeah, yeah.
or at least
I was
I think
yeah.
maybe either base it off or at least have them flavor themselves that way. So
Yeah.
like the one that claims X ability has tabards of yellow,
Mhm.
right? Because
Nice.
Mhm. Mhm.
they have taken on the like whatever ray, and they say that that's the yellow, but that's maybe all that
Yeah.
actually, because you know,
Their ship's wizards can be able to cast that spell or something.
yeah.
Mm,
I think that a lot of times, at least in the theory, is better than the practice. So, like, at least in my mind, these these pirate lords got together and somebody had the idea of it being a beholder, or somebody pitched that, and it got enough votes, and then different different ones of those kings though are going to want or care about implementing their eye, or even if they haven't, like some are going to go say that's stupid, like I'm not going to do that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
David, that's not. We're not dealing with bad pun jokes in this. I'm very much kidding.
Are
We
you
are
sure?
definitely dealing in nothing but pun jokes.
So I'm gonna
Ooh.
what I'm learning already is that I'm making things too small, because some of
Okay.
these tokens can only go so small, and
Mm.
so they're competing with my other tokens. So when we load back in, I'm probably going to resize some of these castles and things so that everything is of the same scale going forward.
For sure. And that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about is sort of get a rough idea so you and I, and during the week, can make small edits to these things.
Yeah.
That way, when we come back next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, we can have that ready to go so we can start building out a section.
So before let's start winding down here, but I'll just go ahead and show the folks what you have done with Legend Keeper before we close out. So let me go ahead and just zoom out on the other map so we can kind of get a scope. Perfect. And then over here we have 3 markers that you've already put down. One is our notes on the Drifter.
Nice.
One is the starting area, so we just have a whole bunch of notes about what the starting area. So we've got like the Kuatoa down, we've got a forest dragon trying to keep the peace by force, taxes both guarding the border and physical, all those sorts of notes. Awesome. And then we've got a whole note started for pirate kings, so we know that there's 8 of them. Each one is one part of a logo with 8 eyes of the beholder. Which would be really cool if maybe one of the first art pieces we do is that crest.
Yeah.
And then we've got a couple other, at least.
Yeah, if you zoom all the way out, you can see I have like the poles in the top left corner.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Where it shows just sort of that idea that David had about sort of a primordial sort of holding down some sort of iceberg.
Yep. That's really cool.
That's super cool.
And then we've got the eggshell peaks. So we've got some notes here for what that area will look like since we throw those ideas out. And then massive trade city. We've just got a pin down there that says somewhere in here would be perfect for that sort of large scale city, which would be like, Waterdeep or Neverwinter or Capital, things like that.
And for that city, what if you did something like Lakeland from Lord of the Rings?
Oh, like Long Lake sort of a thing?
Long Lake, yeah. So you put it and you sort of around all the edges are routes to get to all those water ways. Probably not to the center, but a place that it has a bridge, so you could take boats or you could take carts and horses and everything else into the city. It doesn't stop trade, but the water is sort of their it's basically a demarcation between the 2 continents.
Yep.
And we can I don't think we should start working on that until we get to that area of the map probably, but just an idea of this massive city that is charging people to go back and forth between the north and the south waters, and it is literally charging people between by cart to go through from the eastern kingdoms to the western kingdoms. It's just built by location. It just was the perfect location for this massive city to take off.
I love it. He says if a pirate king loses power to the beholder, he gets an eye patch. The beholder gets an eye patch. Okay, so we know exactly what sort of setting we're making already based on tonight's chat.
Exactly, David.
Sweet.
A Panama Canal situation.
And it could even be constructed partly. Like maybe there was one river initially, but now they've dug more than that to kind of...
They've slowly started blasting away the water.
So that now they have several channels and they can moderate those. So, cool. Well, I think that's a really good spot to start, or to end. So next week, when we load in, you'll see a cleaned up version of what we've talked about right here with the main island, and maybe have cleaned up some of the notes, and we'll be ready to dive in again. We're probably going to stick to this island for several weeks, or this pirate island for several weeks, until we kind of have a really good idea for what it looks like and what it feels like, and then maybe we'll go somewhere else.
If somebody has an idea for anywhere else, I think our focus is this island, but if you have an idea that you're dying to get out, please either send it to one of our social medias or to our YouTube once it's loaded, or even if anybody becomes a Patreon subscriber, send it into our Discord. Our whole goal here is to take information from the entire world. Whenever anybody has this sort of tickle, And again, we're going to hopefully we get more information we could possibly use, but we shall see.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
Until next time, thank you very much, Catherine, for being here. It's been a blast.
Thanks, guys. It was really fun.
Thanks to
And
yeah,
go ahead.
thanks to Dave and Needs More Clickbait for diving
Yeah.
into chat there
Yeah.
and giving us some really good ideas.
And Josh, my friend, was in for a little bit. Josh
Yeah.
Johns, guy I play with here locally, also a Baldwin GM.
Nice.
He came in and had a couple ideas, and he has to work early in the morning. But I think he came in just to sort of check us out. But if you have any ideas, please share and like our socials. We will be doing that. If you have an Amazon account and you're not using your free Twitch subscription, feel free to give us a follow. That would be awesome. Subscribe. If anything else, let us know how we can help or make this better. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you
Thanks.
next week.